Utah governor vetoes a transgender sports ban. Utah Governor Spencer Cox on Tuesday vetoed a bill banning transgender children from playing school sports, noting in a letter explaining his veto that rarely has so much fear and anger been directed at so few. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Here, I have the letter. Just to read it. Starts off with some statistics. This is a right-winger coming armed with statistics. 75,000 high school kids participating in high school sports in Utah. 4 transgender kids playing high school sports in Utah. 1 transgender student playing girls' sports. 86% of trans youth reporting suicidality. I've never seen it written that way. I've always heard it as like suicidal ideation. But suicidality. Also my southern accent fucked me up on saying. 56% of trans youth having attempted suicide. 4 kids and only 1 of them playing girls' sports. That's what all this is about. 4 kids who aren't dominating or winning trophies or taking scholarships. 4 kids who are just trying to find some friends and feel like they are a part of something. 4 kids trying to get through each day. Rarely has so much fear and anger been directed at so few. I don't understand what they are going through or why they feel the way they do, but I want them to live. And all the research shows that even a little acceptance and connection can reduce suicidality significantly. For that reason, as much as any other, I have taken this action in the hope that we can continue to work together and find a better way. If a veto override occurs, I hope we can work to find ways to show these 4 kids that we love them and that they have a place in our state. I recognize the political realities of my decision. Politically, it would be much easier and better for me to simply sign the bill. I've always tried to do what I feel is the right thing, regardless of the consequences. Sometimes I don't get it right, and I do not fault those who disagree with me. But even if you disagree with me, I hope this letter helps you understand the reasons for my decision. Sincerely, Spencer J. Cox. That is the rare Republican with an actual backbone with a fucking brain. Thank you, Governor Cox. I greatly appreciate it. Cox is the second Republican governor this week, after Indiana's Eric Holcomb, to veto legislation that would have banned trans youth from participating in school sports, making them outliers, as 11 Republican governors have signed similar bills into law in recent years. Cox has called a special session in anticipation the legislator will override his veto to figure out next steps on the bill. Meanwhile, when it comes to shithead governors, I think the award goes to the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Apparently, it is taking it upon himself to declare that Leah Thomas didn't actually win in what was it, the 500 meter at the NCAA championship swim meet. Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis jumped into the conversation about a transgender swimmer who won a collegiate title by declaring the runner-up the real winner. DeSantis signed a proclamation Tuesday declaring Florida-born Emma Wyant as the winner of the women's 500 yard. Oh, it is the 500 yard. It's the 457 meter. This instead of transgender athlete Leah Thomas, a University of Pennsylvania senior. DeSantis, whose proclamation has no effect on the tournament outcome, is using the document in fundraising messages for his re-election campaign. Southern Florida's pretty cool, Dip. Down there in Tampa, Miami and shit. It's the rest of that goddamn state. Orlando, that's debatable. Orlando's weird. If you like touristy places, you might like Orlando. There's some fun to be had in Orlando. But if you're not into commercialization, you're probably not going to have fun in Orlando. That's the best way I can put it. As for the rest of the state, you can just throw it out. Throw it the fuck out. Who cares? Tallahassee, flush it. Flush it. Especially when you get up there in that fucking swamp country and the panhandle and shit. Fuck. Yeah. Like, fucking the south part of Florida isn't like the rest of the South. It's its own fucking culture. Further up north you get into Florida, the more you get like the rest of the South. Weird. I had an uncle who lived in Florida. Still lives in Florida. If he's still alive, I don't know. I don't know if he's still alive. I think he's actually my great uncle. I don't even think, I always call him Uncle Bob. I think he's my great uncle. A content warning, especially for anybody in the trans community that may be watching. We're gonna go to Gutfeld, and I have no clue what the fuck he's gonna say, and it's probably gonna be like really incendiary. Because he's a gigantic piece of shit. Gutfeld's monologue from last night, and I'm assuming it's gonna be about Leah Thomas.
You're here. Welcome to the show. I'm Bruce Jenner. I kid, but since Caitlyn isn't using it, I figure why not? It's like a box seat at a ball game. If it's empty, might as well move in from the cheap sheets.
First of all, as somebody who actually enjoys shit, no. I'm not going to the box seat. I want to be as close. First of all, what are we watching? Is it a concert? I want to be as close as possible. I want to go up to the box. I ain't going to enjoy it in the box. Might as well fucking bought the DVD or fucking Blu-ray of the concert. Fuck. Fucking bougie ass Gutfeld over here. I want to go sit in the box so I can be away from the plebes.
Anyway, but in all seriousness, you got to hand it to Caitlyn. Because it took balls the size of weather balloons to criticize media darling and trans swimmer Leah Thomas, saying biological boys should not compete against biological girls. Jenner may not be on the cover of Wheaties anymore, but she should be the...
Caitlyn, after your failed bid for governor and the way they treated you, how the fuck are you still carrying water for the right? What is wrong with you, girl? Are you stupid?
Do you think we're stupid? You think we're fools?
They treated you horribly in California during the governor's race.
Spokesperson for Planters, because she's got some major nuts on her. By the way, Wheaties is the worst tasting cereal ever. It makes Count Chocula taste like a $60 steak. I think that's why they put athletes on the box, because no fat person would dare.
I'm not sure if I've ever eaten Wheaties. Now watch Sparkles show up and be like, you've had Wheaties with me, motherfucker.
Eat it. Now, Jenner says she has no beef with Thomas, but felt the NCAA wasn't tough enough in allowing Thomas to compete in women's races. And she's right. Thomas just beat a bunch of biological girls in the 500-meter whatever. Honestly, I don't follow it. Swimming is for people too lazy to bathe after exercising. Sorry, Trace. But in this controversy of letting biological males beat biological females, there has to be a...
Yeah, I had like a 2-hour-long debate with this dude yesterday. And, I broke down, when did you take an interest in women's swimming exactly? He's got all these fucking time breakdowns and shit. I'm like, when did you take an interest in this?
Insane position to take. First, I don't think a dude chooses to switch genders in order to beat girls in a sport that, before he sucked at. Because cheating with steroids...
And that is a common misnomer. And that's the same thing that asshole I was arguing with yesterday kept saying, that pre-transition Leah was ranked like 530-something. And I'm like, yes, she was a freshman. Usually, and I could not get this through the dude's skull. Yes, usually you start off ranked pretty fucking low. And by the time you get to your senior year, you would be ranked high. She pre-transition was also ranked like 32nd in a different event. She was always a top-tier athlete. Her pre-transition time was 10 seconds off of the male record. Her post-transition time is 10 seconds off of the female record. She was always an elite athlete. So this notion that she sucked and she switched genders just to have an advantage is fucking stupid. And when I brought up the discrepancy in times to this dude, he said, yeah, she's throwing races purposely so that she can win this one. I'm like, you have no evidence of that. That's stupid. So then he shows me where a researcher, and this was actual research, I appreciated this, he screenshotted a part of it and posted it in the thing. And I'm like, it's cherry picking something here. Because he kept telling me like, oh, this is research. I was like, well, please link me to the research. He never did, but he finally told me the author. And it was a trans athlete who now advises the NCAA and the Olympic Committee on matters like this. She didn't agree with him at all, but she was taking he took one little quote out of that research that retain body mass or some shit like that. But the entire article, taken as a whole, said no, they have no disadvantage, or they have no inherent advantage. Everything kind of evens out. It was the weirdest fucking thing. So he's like showing me the times. He's like, all right, so post-transition, she should have been 7 to 14 seconds slower, or 7 to 14% slower. And I agree, because he showed me the research to back that up. She should have been 7 to 14% slower. Instead, she was 7% slower in one and 2% slower in another. 2% slower in the 500, which she won. To which I pointed out, there's a lurking variable in the data there. You're comparing her times pre-transition, which was 4 or 5 years ago. This is an elite athlete who has made gains over the last 4 or 5 years. So you have to subtract the gains they would have made and shaved off their time anyway in the 4 years from the post-transition times. So given that, 2% seems incredibly reasonable. But hey, what do I know? And dude fucking did not know what I was talking about. Did not fucking understand, just like all right-wingers, did not fucking understand statistical analysis.
Just much easier. But remember, as a dude, Thomas was ranked at 462, one spot ahead of her rusty anchor. And now as a chick, she's number one. She should be the spokesperson for chlorine. Strong enough for a man, but made for a woman. But I wonder if the
chlorine
to her, or does she try to ignore it?
I try to ignore it as much as I can. I try to focus on my swimming, what I need to do to get ready for my races, and just try to block out everything else.
Good on you, Leah.
That's weirdly selfish. It's like me putting on a dress and doing The View and acting like it's no big deal. The sad thing is, I'd still be the hottest. But I'd also...
My God!
It's The View. They need tech support to count to 10. But it's not about switching genders at all. That's just a distraction. I doubt winning swim meets is the reason anyone would change their sex. Swimming is hard enough. I won't go near a kiddie pool unless there's a lifeguard on duty. but it's about what you do after switching genders. It's common sense. You might even call it common courtesy. Perhaps what Thomas is doing.
What the fuck do you know about switching genders? Who the fuck made you an arbiter of what you're supposed to do after you switch genders? The fuck are you talking about? Who the fuck are you, Gutfeld?
Is a byproduct of masculine selfishness, like eating the entire pizza you were supposed to save for your spouse when she got home from work. That's the striking part. A dude becomes a man and then kicks the crap out of girls at a sport. It's just piggish. I mean, not many women are becoming men and doing the same thing. Or if they do, they lose more often than Hillary Clinton. So the more Thomas wins as a chick, the more.
I just enjoyed the Hillary joke. Sorry. That's I think.
See that even if your bangs.
Is that the first time Gutfeld cracked me? Is that the first time Gutfeld cracked me? The Hillary joke got me. It was only like a little, but like still, Gutfeld got me there.
That's the striking part. A dude becomes a man and then kicks the crap out of girls at a sport. It's just piggish.
A dude becomes a man.
Women are becoming men and doing the same thing. Or if they do, they lose more often than Hillary Clinton. So the more Thomas wins.
Dude, you'll be a man soon.
As a chick, the more of a chauvinist she appears to be. I mean, you should see that even if your bangs are in your eyes. No one is saying it's wrong for you to pursue the sport you love, but when you have a clear advantage and for some reason you don't care, it's disrespectful and it's narcissistic. But by sticking up for women, Jenner shows the respect she has for the fairer sex, which seems.
Now, does Gutfeld do a whole monologue about, let's say, Tom Brady or Brett Favre? You know, the talented quarterbacks that are also right-wingers that are fucking full of themselves. Are you calling them narcissistic? There is an air of misogyny here. There's transphobia. Gutfeld's got it all.
Missing with Leah as she happily destroys the competition.
I mean, misogyny is like the fucking calling card of this show, though.
While they desperately cling to the untenable woke position. An NBC op-ed actually compared Thomas to Jackie Robinson.
That's a good comparison.
Weird. They don't look at all alike. Except maybe in size and muscle mass.
Oh, God.
Rika Giorgi, not sure if I got that right, a Virginia Tech swimmer.
She supports Leah.
NCAA rules allowing transgendered women to compete against biological females after she missed the cutoff for the consolation final in the 500.
She said she supports Leah. There are fake tweets from her going around.
In a letter, she claimed their rules are harmful to biological females and that every event transgendered athletes competed in was one spot taken away from biological females, herself included. You know, it's almost as though biological women should have their own league so they aren't crushed by biological men. That's crazy. Ron DeSantis, isn't he the commissioner of swimming or something? Is also pretty ticked off.
Now, the NCAA...
Who gives a shit if Ron DeSantis is ticked off?
...destroy women's athletics. They're trying...
These are the people that talk about entitlement. They talk about participation trophies. They call other people sore losers. Jesus fucking Christ. Fuck these people.
Trying to undermine the integrity of the competition, and they're crowning somebody else the woman's champion, and we think that's wrong.
So he issued a proclamation declaring the second-place finisher, Floridian Emma Wyant, the true champion. But in short, Leah crushed the female competition. I'm not devastated, but then I'm not a woman who swam all her life competitively. I'm just a biological male who drinks competitively, and I got the trophies and liver to prove it. Swimming is something I do.
Why are we listening to a drunkard then?
It's true. I'm just warming the water for everybody else. Thank you. But I'm looking at this, and I can't deny what I see.
They don't give a shit.
Seems more interested in appearing woke than protecting its athletes.
Matter of fact, not only do they not give a shit, they like actively mock women's sports. Notice, like, Brittany Griner, we're talking about the integrity of women's sports here, and, like, these fucks never bring up Brittany Griner. You're not going to hear about her. And if they were to bring her up, it's only in the context to bash Russia, possibly. If they even bash Russia. Depends on which host is on. Some of them are sucking Putin's cock. But man, like, they mock the WNBA and everything. They mock the women's soccer team. I would almost bet there are monologues of Greg Gutfeld mocking Megan Rapaport. Absolutely. They don't give a shit about women's sports.
But to make this ideology work, you have to erase the distinction between trans and biological women. That means it's not only women being erased from the record books of their own sports, they're being erased, period. No pun intended, since men can have periods too. So wait till the next Leah Thomas comes along and wants to play a contact sport.
Enough for this shit.
Women's lacrosse. And leaves a trail of injured women on the field. Maybe then the NCAA and their lawyers will finally say uncle. Or should I say aunt? Let's welcome tonight.
Also, the other example of a trans athlete they bring up is Fallon Fox, the MMA fighter. They always say that she broke her opponent's skull. What actually happened is an orbital bone fracture, which is one of the absolute most common fractures in the UFC or in MMA. Sorry, that's like calling, fucking a tissue a Kleenex because, Kleenex is the brand. It's calling everything UFC. Just like your mom called everything a Nintendo. All video games are that Nintendo over there. The arcade to play Nintendo. Sorry. One of the most common injuries in MMA is an orbital bone fracture, which is what Fallon Fox inflicted upon her opponent. If you ever hear a right-winger saying that nonsense.